Welcome, everyone, to episode 174 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest is cover artist, model, actress, Renaissance woman, director, producer. I think I got everything. Bear Lesia, who's currently on the cover of I'm Here With magazine, which has just been released. If it's not in chapters on the West Coast, it will be very soon. It is in the East Coast already. Very cool to see. I met Bear through Jill Maria Robinson, the editor-in-chief, and she asked, "Would you? I think she'd be a cool conversation," and she was. You'll get to that very shortly. Man, what a crazy month it's been. I took a few days off because it's been a blur. Like, I can honestly say, since the nominations kind of come out, I have been nothing but busy. Maybe the nomination is is a part of what's going on. But yeah, for the last month, it has been incredibly crazy. And the hits definitely hit there. This week was a milestone for me. I hit more plays and downloads this week than I ever have before. And I want to thank everybody that was a part of the Sweet and Sultry Summer Reading Festival. I thank everybody involved in that. That was great, and thanks for the boost. But also to my listeners, thank you very much. This has been a cool growth process, and I'm hoping it maintains here. But even if this was a plateau for now, it's still really damn cool. Beyond that, yeah, I'm kind of getting back into the grind now. I feel refreshed. I feel ready to go, and let's just get right into it. Let's have my conversation with Bear Lesia. If there's anything incriminating you want to say, make it good. I mean, it was committing. So there's a big giant fire department truck just walk right on by as we're talking here.
Wait.
Yeah, she's waving. It's actually cool. Did they wave back?
They started waving at me first.
Aww. I can understand that. You're definitely a very striking woman. So
thank you.
Yes. So you've been from what I gather, you're an actress.
I am. I started actually doing hair and makeup at 16. I went to hair and makeup school here in Calgary, Alberta, Jacobson's Beauty School. Then I went to Vancouver. I was going to start doing it there. But then I got noticed by fashion designers and hair people, and they wanted me to be in their fashion shows and hair. And back then, everything was very popular back then, like with fashion shows, and they'd always put me by myself because I'm short. But they loved me because I was proportioned. So back then I was like 34B, 24, 30, 34. So very proportioned person. So they really liked that about me. Then when I come off stage, everyone's like, "Oh God, you're just this little thing." So it was kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny.
Oh, it's sometimes the most energy comes from the smallest places, not the biggest.
Yeah, my dad always said we should have called you Morgie and not Lesia. Less of ya. He just makes jokes. My dad's quite funny.
Your dad's a very punny person.
Oh my gosh, everyone who knows my dad loves him. Even when you talk to him on the phone, he's so joyous, and he makes me want to be more like him every day. Like, I even asked him one day, "Dad, do you ever get sad or lonely just because you're always so..." He goes, "Oh, yeah, but then you're missing out on what's right in front of you and just being grateful for what you have." And my dad is a Cree. Yeah, his mom had 14 kids. There's not very many siblings left, but they are wonderful, and I've just finally met most of them in my life because I wasn't brought up with my dad. I was brought up with my mom's mom and dad. And I thought actually almost 10 and a half years of my life my dad was dead. So I actually, when I was 13 or 14 years old, I said to my mom I wanted to go pay my respects to my father. I thought, they're like. So when they said he wasn't gone, I was very angry.
Yeah, that'd be understandable.
I was so angry I didn't even know what to say because I never really throughout my whole life, I never ever saw once my grandmother and grandfather ever argue, ever. The only time I saw him get upset was when he got cancer, and it was really hard for him to ask for help. And I know that happens a lot to our elders, but that was the only time. But he soon said, sorry, my grandfather was the most loving person I've ever had in my life. The only man in my life that never hurt me, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally. Because I can't say that for a lot of men in my past, growing up as a child. But he always looked out for me. I was very blessed. My grandmother, she was a hard one. My mother and her sort of had this love-hate relationship, and because I looked so much like my mother, and I was very protective of my sister, and I love watching this play.
Yes. She's stirring later.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah, she made me grow up fast. I grew up very quickly. I left home very young. I actually started nannying when I was 14. I nannied 3 kids, 5, 9, and 2 months old, just so I could help my grandmother after Grandpa passed away to pay for my books and my clothes, so she didn't have to worry about it. It was a big change in our lives when Grandpa passed away. I hardly ever saw my mother growing up. My mother was another entertainer. She was on the road a lot. And then when I met my dad, it was like time never passed. We bonded right away. I loved my father and everybody that I met and that knew my father. I was a little jealous, actually, because I didn't realize my dad was so known in the snooker world and billiards world, in England and all over the world. And oh my God, that's Jimmy Bear, you know. I'm like, wow, everyone knows my dad, and here I'm just getting to know him, and I miss out a lot, and he missed out a lot on me too, growing up.
But you're together now?
Yeah, we are. We spend as much time together as possible. He's actually coming out next week.
That's cool.
And I'm very excited. He'll be here for probably one of my launches for the magazine, so I'm very grateful. And I'm really grateful for Jill asking me and to be on the cover when she knew about the long history I've been in the industry and in both fashion and film for 35 years now. Maybe longer, because I started quite young, 16, 17, and now I'm 52, so...
Don't look it.
Thank you.
Yes. So, I'm going to ask this then. So you've been in this industry a really, really long time.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah, it has. So...
I'm glad the movement has come, because I know for myself, I never got a lot of parts because of being subjugated by producers and directors, by not sleeping with them. And I'm not going to mention any names because I'll know who they are. But and it's not just happened to me; it's happened to so many. And unfortunately, some girls who are not very secure with themselves.
Do what they have to do to get ahead.
They did what they had to do to get ahead. And I don't judge them for it.
No.
At all. No, because you know what? It's happened to women all of our lives, and from the past to now. And I think it's just because now people are having a voice and knowing that it's okay to say no. And I did, and I was one of those women who said no, but it didn't get very far. And it still happens in every field of my career. Unfortunately, there's subjugation in every types of forms and bullying, everything, because of jealousy and insecurity. But it happens to everyone. Mm-hmm. It's just you have to realize that you can't take it personally. You just have to look at other things in your life that make you get further in your life, that make you feel better about who you are.
And also, it's also just ultimately about your integrity and self-respect. And I once saw something a long time ago that said, really at the end of the day in this life, there's only really 2 things you have. That is your integrity and your self-respect. And if you trade those away, you don't really have anything. And that's a hard way to live too.
For me, I believe, I don't know if anybody's ever, I was given this book by a friend of mine called The Four Agreements. And it's very important to me, these four agreements. And one is always keep your integrity. And the other one is always be the best that you can be. And never assume. A lot of people make assumptions all the time. That causes drama, that causes unnecessary conflict in their lives when you don't have to. So never assume, because that is one of the biggest things in our lives. And always communicate, which is very important. And if you make mistakes, just own up to it, because you know what?
Everybody makes mistakes.
Everyone does. And when you own up to it, I have way more respect for those people that don't own up to it. They just keep lying through their teeth. I don't have anything to do with them. I'm too old to go through.
No, I understand that. I'm too old now. I'm 36.
Oh, you're young. You're still a baby.
I know I'm still a baby. That's what I'll tell. They're gonna tell. I'm gonna be called a baby all the way until I'm 80 by anyone older than me. You're still a baby. Not that young.
Well, you know what? I actually look at it this way. I'm 52 now, right? And I can't say I've my half of my life, because you never know how old you are when you're gonna go, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at your 20s and your 30s as your middle part, because that's when you really should go for everything. And like I said, I did, but again, a lot of things happened, and things changed in my life too that made me hold back a lot of things. But you know what? I still went through it, and you just have to. You have to keep that will inside you. That's part of your spirit. And
I have 4 rules. Show up. That sounds like a really simple one, but honestly, you'd be amazed how many people don't do that. Do your thing. Don't quit. The rest is right.
That's right.
Right? You gotta accept what you can't control. I didn't do, like I said, I mentioned this off the air. This podcast got nominated for an award this year. I never asked to do it. I never nominated myself. It happened. But when I did this, it's nothing I planned for. Right? I've been doing interviews for about 15 years. So for me, it's just like I'm always fascinated to hear people's stories, where they're coming from and where they're going. And so that's it. Anything I get out of this, for me, beyond that, is gravy. Now, if I make a living doing this in my books, and that's my goal, that's what I want, and that's what I'm going for. I think I'm going to get those things. But even if I don't, it's still stuff I would do all the time anyway. And that's the other thing too. I mean, when you're doing what you're called to do, the right things to your...
And what you love.
Yeah, and what you love. You are, by your very nature, happy. One thing you mentioned about your dad always being happy. Yeah, it's not that you never feel sad or lonely or angry or anything like that, because no, nothing's perfect, and we all have problems. But there's 2 things. Like I was told from my father a long time ago, that it's not about your problems, it's about where you're going, and everything you're going into that moment is just a moment in time, and you will work your way through it as long as you, again, do the 4 things I said earlier: show up, do your thing, and don't quit. Right? It will work out one way or the other, right? And you can only really fail if you quit or you don't show up.
Right.
That's it.
No,
Everything.
That's true.
Okay.
You need to put 100% into everything you do. That's in your work, your relationships, your life.
Yeah.
Because if you're only putting half in, then you're only going to get half back.
Or less.
Probably less if you don't even put even half in.
Well, there's no. Well, what happens is, this is what happens when people recognize that you're not putting the effort in that you should be. They'll stop putting the effort in with you. And then again, because you basically and something I've been learning in the last couple of years is you always treat people the way you want to be treated, but also look at how they're treating you. Mm-hmm. Now, usually how they're treating you is how they think of themselves. I've learned that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like my grandmother always said, she actually got me a book when I was younger called How to Be Your Own Best Friend. And if you can't be your own best friend, who the heck is going to be your best friend?
Yeah.
Right? And I always believe it. And I think think that's why lately I've nipped a few relationships in the butt lately because of how they respond and how they act. Because I always say it's better to act than react, because you can't take anything back.
Yeah.
Especially if it's out of anger or you're yelling. I do not tolerate yelling, because you know what? It's ugly. And no one listens to you when you're yelling. Honestly, they don't. I know that because I'm one of these people that just walks away. And I read it in this self-help book. And it made me see that.
Yeah.
Because I remember I used to, when I was younger, because of all of the things I was angry about, I would get mad and lash out. And I realized it wasn't helping myself or helping anyone to understand what I was going through.
No.
So I really took a step back, and when I saw these two people I cared about get in a fight with each other and hurt the other one physically, like knifed them, I was in shock, and I said I never want to look like that or be like that, never. And that taught me a valuable lesson. I was 18 years old when I seen it happen, and it changed my life a lot. And that's where I realized, you know, that's where I really started to hold back and with my first boyfriend or second boyfriend, the anger. He was very abusive and verbally abusive, and that's where I just had to walk away.
Yeah. Well, I find that on some level, like attracts like. Like it's not a perfect thing, but there are qualities that you share with people in your life, and those are the people that, again, we don't look at necessarily anything quite the same way, and actually that's part of the fun in this life. But what you're drawn to is the fact that you're going for something. In my case, I'm driven to do what I'm doing. So what I'm finding at this point in my life is I'm being associated with people more and more that are driven to do their own things. So they're not necessarily the same things I'm doing, but like, okay, you've been an actress, you've been a model, you're going behind the camera.
I'm in makeup, I do special effects.
Yeah. So you've
writing
done
and producing and directing now.
Yeah. So which is all hard things to do.
They are.
Right. And so what we have in common is you're going for stuff, I'm going for stuff, and this is one of those moments in time where we intersect. Now, whether we intersect again or not, who knows? But right, that's yeah. Aw, now I'm blushing. Anyways, but that's how life works, right? You find like younger you sounded like a lot of illusions got shattered, and you were angry because, and understandably so, right? Because you had this idea of what your life was like, and that's not what your life actually was, and that's a hard I interviewed somebody not too long ago that found out someone like that in their 40s. That was not easy for him either, right? And it's just one of those things, like everybody, like there are moments that change you and shape you, and it makes you value certain things more too. When we talk about shattering illusions, I love the truth more because as a result of it, because there's less hurt. I mean, as painful as the truth can be sometimes, there's a lot less hurt in the long run, right?
Yeah. I'm brutally honest. Even my mom always said that, but she used to hate that about me. But then she goes, no, I love it, because you know what? No one's ever been that way to me.
And that's
and that's as we got older, because again, I never was really brought up with my mom, and she ended up passing away here almost 11 years ago, or I guess 12 years ago now. I can't believe it. Very young, 57, and I have lung cancer also, just like her mother and her grandmother. I've lost all of them to cancer, smoking, which I wished was never invented. But anyways, she told me that about me, and said to keep it, because you know what? People don't tell the truth today, and they don't have a conscience of how people feel and how they hurt people. You do. And I get very affected very easily. I'm very sensitive.
Well, it's just like you say something, you do. You hear people say stuff and they do it, right? That's really my standard for people. it's not. It's will they follow through on what they say they're gonna do?
Yeah,
And
that's integrity.
Yeah, right. That's it. And if you won't,
keeping your word.
Yeah, that's it. Honestly, that tells me more. That will tell me more about you. Now, things happen sometimes. That's one thing. But when you just basically aren't real, right? And you're just always like keeping to yourself, or what's the term? You can't follow, for whatever reason, that mechanism to follow through just doesn't come out. Sooner or later, you just recognize that person, whatever it is going on inside them, they need to figure this out on their own. And so I mean,
I pray that for everyone every day, that they find their light in their side. So we all have a light in the dark.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who've not had a really good history of love or kindness, even gratefulness or respect. They grow up that way. They lose that conscience about themselves, and they have regrets and vengeance out for other people, which makes me sad, because I could be that way too, and because of all the things that happened to me. But I always believed there was something in me that kept me going, and it was love and forgiveness, and I worked very hard at it. And my grandmother and grandfather, actually, I can say that they helped me with that.
That's good.
Yeah. And with my elders, and being a Cree elder myself now, I have to. I just want to keep my grace about life and not take things so seriously. But I will not tolerate bullying. I won't tolerate lies or the truth. I just can't now in this time in my life. I'm working too hard on everything that I'm doing right now.
You have only so much time.
You only have so much time. That's right.
Right. And then your time's your real money, and everything.
And those people will find it one day, if not in this lifetime, another. And that's.
Well, like I said, it's everybody learns in their own at their own pace.
Teach one another.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So we should talk about your work at some point.
My work. Well, basically everything I talk about is my work.
Yeah.
Everything that I've written about. As I worked in my career, I noticed when I was working on First Nations movies, not everything was correct. I'm not going to mention a lot of it.
You don't need to. It's all good.
But I made I promised elders that I work with that I was going to write, and because I did go to a First Nations school, I ended up going and graduating at PICS, Indian Cultural Survival School, learning all my traditions, Blackfoot Cree and survival horses and stuff like that, and in my English 30, because I needed that credit to get my grade 12. So I got additional credits for my other courses too, which was great. And I thought, and doing a lot of sit-outs, I was very blessed. Unfortunately, a lot of them are gone now, but they taught me so much. And when I was doing my research from my native scripts, they were done in the 1500s, I wanted to show, before anyone came here, how they truly lived. The authentic way of the First Nations people in each culture. And everyone was different. Each one has their own ways and their traditions, but they always still came down to being very kind and sacred, and how they were caretakers of the earth and each other. And I wanted to bring that up because some things done and portrayed in films of the First Nations were not true. So I'm trying to.
You're trying to correct that. Well, and tell your stories.
Same with elder abuse. I grew up in a nursing home with my grandmother. She was a nurse, and heard about elder abuse even back then and seen it.
Yeah.
I remember a nurse getting fired and everything. I recall it, and I was about 3.5, 4 years old when I saw that. And my grandmother told me why later on, and that's when she said, "You never hit elders." And I remember saying that to me, and it stayed with me. And then in 2010, I watched something on W5. Is that right?
I have no idea.
It's like 2020.
Yeah.
About elder abuse, and they showed this caretaker taking care of this elder, and she was brutally punching her, and every time she would eat, and I just started crying. And I said, okay, I have to write a movie about this. So I wrote a script about elder abuse, and also anybody that's being abused. Unfortunately, I was one of those children, and I just wanted to help where it doesn't become a vicious circle, and you don't grow up to be creating that vicious circle. So get help, talk to people, watch what your triggers are, and go get help.
Yeah.
So I write a lot of scripts. I'm actually writing another one right now to Native Western called Buffalo's Daughters, about being Métis. And it's from the 1800s to the 1900s. And I already got an investor for my Silver Spiritual Warrior. Those are the Native epics, but I'm under NDA, so I can't really talk too much about them right now. But I am very busy, and then I'm just doing my children's book. I actually wrote it when I was 17. My cousins have told me to start getting it out there, so
Good luck.
So now I'm doing some children's books.
Yeah, so for what age?
From 2 and up.
2 and up?
Yeah, and I still love
Illustrated?
illustrating, and I'm doing the animation right now too with a friend of mine.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
So I'm very busy right now.
No, I can certainly relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
So
And now the magazine.
Yeah, so we'll close the official interview part of this off with this. So you are the cover of I'm Here With magazine. How did that come about?
When Jill saw me working on Helen Wills, she said everyone just like, oh my God, there she is, and then everybody knew that I was also an actor and stunt girl on behind. And after we all kind of stayed close after the show ended, very close with Elle Stickle, and Elle really, looked up to me, and I looked up to him, and Jill, and she also saw my website, and she's like, oh my gosh, I think Lesia should be the cover of the magazine. And she said she had this vision of me, and now you see it.
Yes, that's awesome.
And she thought my work should be more recognized and promoted, and I was very honored.
Yeah. So you're more behind the camera than in front of the camera. Is this?
I'm actually just started doing auditions again.
Nice. So that might change.
Hopefully make you both. I'm also directing, helping a friend direct the Native Veterans Legacy with elders, and also I'm doing a documentary about my father. On his snooker world.
Nice.
And because there's a lot behind that story of the World Championship, and I really wanted to bring that out. And he's like this little Indian Al Pacino, and like I said, anybody that knows my father just loves him. So I'm going to be taking steps and interviews with all of the snooker players that are alive right now, because so many of them are passing on and getting stories told.
Yeah,
almost all of them, kind of a legacy behind the billiards and snooker world.
That sounds really, really cool. So this is how we're going to end the interview, right? Talk about what you're currently doing, and then how people can find you. Yeah.
Well, I am currently working on a story and documentary on my father, Jimmy the Bear, and also helping a friend with the Veterans Legacy program on the veterans that have been such an inspiration and keeping their stories alive through these interviews and the documentary. And then I'm also working on my Juice Berryland book right now in animation, and I'm also working on Silver Spiritual Warrior 2 Moons. It's a 5-year project. It's going to be a little while, but it's coming together. And then also working with another producer right now on Joy and Tony about elder abuse. So I'm very busy right now, and also writing scripts on Talk About Buffalo's Daughters. So I'm very busy, and you will see my work. I do have a website called LesiaTBear.com. That's all you have to say, and it goes right to my website, which I'm getting updated this week because it needs to be. And you can see me on Facebook and or Instagram under Lesia Bear, and IMDb Lesia Bear, actually, which I might change.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that was my conversation with Lesia Bear. I'm Here With magazine is available now. Like I say, it may not be quite in the chapters on the West Coast, but if you're living in the East Coast, you can definitely pick up the magazine now. It will be available in the West Coast probably within a matter of days. Beyond all that, that is another episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. You can subscribe to this podcast. iTunes or on Podomatic itself. You can leave a review. You can say if you like the episode, if you don't like the episode, maybe this episode was too windy, or this or that. The other thing, you feel free to do whatever you want to do there. I'm okay. I'm a big boy. I can take it. I have a YouTube channel, Joshua Penteloresco. Previous episodes are there. I had some new ones with Jonas Sull, Miranda Krogstad. Choose Happy Podcast is now up, among a few other ones as well. So you can check those out. You can buy my books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, courtesy of Mirror World Publishing. You can buy those anywhere brick and mortar books are sold, or electronically for that matter. Beyond all that, whether you subscribe or don't subscribe, thank you for listening. If you are dream with your eyes wide open, stay inspired, go forward. You are good enough to accomplish anything you set your mind to. All right. See you next time.
Josh.